Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here, and today I am talking about the February 2023 bundle from IMPRINT Films from Australia, division of Viavision Entertainment. And up top, I should say that these are all region-free discs. So if any of these catch your eye, they are worth importing and can be imported directly from IMPRINT Films from the Viavision website, or you can search import CDs, Orbit DVD, Diabolic DVD, etc. For importing. So let's get into this, though. It's a varied slate, as is the norm with these IMPRINT bundles. We'll start with a film from 1980 called Resurrection, directed by Daniel Petrie, and stars Ellen Burstyn, Sam Shepard, Richard Farnsworth, Roberts Blossom, Jeffrey DeMunn, and Lane Smith. It's a really nice cast, actually. And the story is of a woman who survives a car accident which kills her husband. Hate to spoil that, but it happens literally within the first 5 minutes of the movie. And it's pretty sad, too, because she's just bought him a new car, and her husband's played by Jeffrey DeMunn, who would go on to be in Walking Dead. I think most people would recognize him from that, but he's been in a lot of films. And the car crashes. He's killed. She is not. But she becomes something of an unwitting celebrity because she seems to have developed this power to heal people through touch. And so she moves away back to her parents' place. Her dad is played by Roberts Blossom, who is the old guy, scary old guy neighbor with the shovel in Home Alone, if you don't remember his name. Sam Shepard is a local guy that sort of takes a liking to her, but it's a really neat and warm Ellen Burstyn performance, and it's fascinating to see it play out. It's not, I mean, the premise is something of almost like a Twilight Zone sort of thing in a way, because of this healing power that she has that's real and that really works. Not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time. And the idea of how people would respond to that, especially in a religious area, it's tough. Some people, you know, because Ellen Burstyn's character is not a person of faith in particular, and doesn't talk about a higher power of sorts while she's doing her healing, they just can make assumptions about it being the devil's power or something along those lines. So there's, you know, it's this weird double-edged thing of like she's doing this wonderful thing and has this great ability, and yet there's a negativity and a fear that surrounds it. But anyway, she's very good in the film. And it's interesting to see how it plays out and where it ends up. You know, there's an early meeting she has with Richard Farnsworth. His character runs a little service station, and he has a two-headed snake, and, you know, he's very sweet to her at a time when she's still very vulnerable on her way back to her parents' place with her dad. And yeah, it's just a really neat movie, a moving film. Ultimately, Daniel Petrie is a director I, you know, have been a fan of. He did a movie called Lifeguard that I'm a huge fan of. I hope gets a Blu-ray at some point. He also did Buster and Billy with Jan Michael Vincent, which has gotten its own Blu-ray at some point. Six Pack, if you remember that, with Kenny Rogers, and you know, he's done a lot of interesting character dramas. That seems to be sort of his area of expertise. So anyway, this is... I can't remember if this has come out previous to this. I don't think so, but don't quote me on that. 1080p high-definition presentation from a new 2K scan by Universal Studios. Audio commentary by author and film historian Lee Gambin included here. The Choice of Love, an interview with actress Ellen Burstyn. So she talks about this film, which is very cool to have her on record about it. Born to be Wild, Resurrection, and the Rise of the Divine Feminine, video essay by Kat Ellinger included as well. So a nice little release of, I think it's something of a cult item, a little bit. So that's Resurrection from 1980. Then we have, rounding out the Bad News Bears trilogy from 1978, we have The Bad News Bears Go to Japan. This one is directed by John Barry, but sees the return of Bill Lancaster as a writer on this script. Bill Lancaster, of course, wrote the first film. He wrote The Thing. I always remember that. But yeah, so we have him back in the fold writing on this one. And Tony Curtis headlining as a sort of a huckster. Some have said, you know, kind of resurrecting his Sidney Falco character from Sweet Smell of Success in a way. I mean, it's like you could see it as like an aging Sidney Falco type who hears about the Bears on the news and that they're trying to raise money to get to Japan to play against this Japanese baseball team to defend the national pastime, which, you know, is an interesting if shaky start. But Tony Curtis sees an opportunity and decides to try and woo the boys to allow him to be the guy to take them over. And he does that, you know, and then, of course, there are issues with them and the quality of their baseball playing in terms of getting a TV contract to televise this event and what have you. But, you know, it's ultimately a sweet movie, and, you know, you've got a lot of the Bears returning that were in several of them that were in the original movie, and then several that were replacement actors for characters replaced in Breaking Training. As I said, this is the third Bad News Bears movie. Now Imprint Films has released all three. But yeah, Jackie Earle Haley returns, among others. Brett Marks, I always remember Harpo Marx' grandson, who looks a bit like him. Yeah, so it's, you know, it's the movie that I always remembered people saying was a movie that was guaranteed to make men cry. And so I had thought of the ending in a certain way, but I feel like I sort of crossed it with the ending of Breaking Training, but it didn't end the way that I remembered. We'll put it like that. And if you haven't seen it, you can watch it and see what I mean. But yeah, I remembered it being different. But it is ultimately a sweet ending to the film and to this, you know, rivalry that's sort of been established between these two teams. But yeah, it's an interesting closer to the Bad News Bears series. And it includes high-definition presentation by Paramount, audio commentary by film historian Scott Harrison, America's Wildest Export, scoring the Bad News Bears Go to Japan, an interview with composer Paul Chihara. So we get an interview with the composer on this disc as well. I should show the covers. This is the original artwork, just that sort of Mad Magazine style. And then, of course, inside we have the team picture and, you know, different artwork. So that's Bad News Bears Go to Japan. I'll just show you Resurrection while I'm at it. The initial cover and interior photograph. Okay, so next up we have a movie called The Mountain. This one is from 1956 and stars Spencer Tracy and Robert Wagner. A film I had not heard of. It's directed by Edward Dmytryk, who sort of a master of film noir in a lot of ways, a director that did at least a few that I think are some of the cornerstones of, film noir. Murder My Sweet being a big one, The Sniper, Crossfire. He did a movie called Mirage with Gregory Peck that's very good, kind of a almost straight version of North by Northwest in a way, a little bit. But anyway, very solid workman-like director, and a guy that I definitely dig. But I hadn't heard of this film, and it is set, I want to say, in like Swiss Alps or something. Retired mountain climber and guide Zachary Teller reluctantly helps his younger brother scale a treacherous mountain slope to reach. It's filmed, I want to say it's like filmed in, I don't know, feels like Switzerland or Europe or something. It's definitely, there are certainly studio inserts, but there's definitely some exteriors that are shot outside the U.S. and make the film feel authentic. But yeah, that's the basic synopsis, is that Spencer Tracy is sort of an ex-mountaineer who now is a sheep herder. He lives in this small village with his younger brother that's kind of a cad, played by Robert Wagner. And Wagner really wants... this plane crashes at the beginning of the film. Very interesting special effect, by the way. And so they send this team of people to come after the survivors. They don't think there are any, but they want to check on them. And so they have a team guided by another mountaineer guy that Spencer Tracy's character knows, and they tell him, they need to take the north face of the mountain, which at this time of year, it's winter. It's very icy. It's very dangerous because they have to bring up a whole bunch of equipment and stuff. But Spencer Tracy, they bring him in and ask him to help, and he's like, nah, I can't. The mountain. He had an incident where, an English climber and him fell off the mountain, both of them. In fact, he fell and dragged this guy down with him. He survived. The other guy didn't. And so he is sort of retired from climbing, feels like the mountain doesn't want him anymore. He's got this whole thing. But his brother... Okay, well, let me back up. The team that goes up doesn't pan out. It doesn't work out. They aren't able to get up there. And so the Robert Wagner character is desperate to get his brother to help him climb the mountain because he needs him to do so. And as there is a reason he wants to get up there that I won't go into, but he's able to talk Spencer Tracy's character into climbing the mountain with him, and they will try to get to the top and find the plane and the wreckage. That's all I'll tell you, and it kind of goes from there. But he is a real jerk, a real angry, dissatisfied character, and Robert Wagner could really play this kind of thing pretty well, I gotta say. So anyway, an interesting cast that also includes Claire Trevor, Bill Demarest as a priest. E.G. Marshall shows up. There's definitely some other faces that you might recognize here. But it's an interesting movie, and because I'm a fan of Edward Dmytryk, I was definitely intrigued to check it out. So we have with this one a 1080p high-definition presentation from a 2K scan of the original negative by Paramount. Looks good. Grainy but solid-looking movie. Audio commentary by film historian Howard Berger. Above the precipice, actor Robert Wagner remembers 20th Century Fox, Spencer Tracy, and The Mountain. So that's a new interview with Robert Wagner here. And director Edward Dmytryk on the Hollywood 10, an old interview with him from 1990. So that is The Mountain. Pretty sure this is the first time on Blu-ray. These may... No, they aren't all new, I don't think. Next up, we have Hurry Sundown. This is definitely an all-star affair, directed by one Otto Preminger, who made a lot of famous classic films, including Anatomy of a Murder, Laura, Bunny Lake is Missing, The Man with Golden Arm, I like Where the Sidewalk Ends and Angel Face, Fallen Angel. A lot of noirs also, like Dimitrik. Whirlpool, Daisy Canyon. He made Skidoo, which is a really trippy movie if you haven't seen that. So this one from 1967 is about a... Let's see, it's following the Second World War. A northern cannery combine negotiates for the purchase of a large tract of uncultivated Georgia farmland. The major portion of the land is owned by Julianne Warren and has already been optioned by her unscrupulous draft-dodging husband, Henry. Now, the combine must also obtain 2 smaller plots owned by Henry's own cousin, Rad McDowell, a combat veteran with a wife and family. The other by Reeve Scott, a young black man whose mother had been Julie's childhood mammy. Neither Rad nor Reeve is interested in selling, and they form an unprecedented black and white partnership to improve their land. Although they're infuriated by the turn of events, Henry remains determined to push through the big land deal, and when Reeves and Rose's mother, Rose, dies, Henry tries to persuade his wife to charge Reeve with illegal ownership of the property, etc., etc. It becomes a sort of a courtroom thing. So Henry Warren is played by Michael Caine. Julianne Warren is played by Jane Fonda. Rad McDowell is played by John Philip Law. Robert Hooks plays Reeve Scott. Robert Hooks, of course, Troubleman, Mr. T himself. The film also stars Diane Carroll, Faye Dunaway, Burgess Meredith, George Kennedy, Lucas Skew, Jim Backus, Robert Reed. You know, it's a real all-star cast, and it's a good long movie. It's 146 minutes. But yeah, so it's sort of a hot button, racially charged, you know, pot boiler type movie. Henry Warren is an unscrupulous and greedy landowner obsessed with buying up all the available land in Georgia, farming town. Blocking his path are sharecroppers Rad McDowell and Reeve Scott, who refuse to sacrifice their small farms for his industrial schemes. So an evil Michael Caine role, you don't see those too much. He certainly can pull it off, and he does here. And an interesting and solid performance from Jane Fonda as well. This is a 1080p high-definition presentation from a 2K scan from Paramount. Audio commentary by film historian Daniel Creamer, featuring actor Robert Hooks. That's brand new. The Great Ecstasy of Tree Climber Otto, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Late Preminger, video essay by Daniel Creamer. Directed by Otto Preminger, and appreciation by Peter Bogdanovich, an older feature for that. So nice round of features for Hurry Sundown from 1967. I definitely like that there's been a lot of Otto Preminger represented on Blu-ray. All right, a couple more here. We have something from William Wyler, a film I had not seen or have not seen, and that is Carrie. This is from 1952, starring Laurence Olivier and Jennifer Jones. And William Wyler, of course, a really, you know, well-regarded Hollywood director of Best Years of Our Lives, you know, The Heiress, Roman Holiday, Wuthering Heights, The Collector. I really like The Big Country is a good one that he did, a Western that he did. But he's, you know, just one of those really epic Hollywood directors that made a lot of great movies. So this, The Letter with Bette Davis, I really like that too. So anyway, this one is about Jennifer Jones plays, of course, Carrie. And it says Carrie's dreams of adventure in the big city are quickly squashed as she discovers that all that awaits her there is a bleak life of grueling and poorly paid factory work. That is until a traveling salesman named Drouet steps into her life and changes her outlook. And that, of course, is played by... I thought it was played by Laurence Olivier, but It's an interesting cast here. You also have Miriam Hopkins, Eddie Albert, definitely some other folks that I recognize, but I can't tell you all from what. The film, George Hurstwood is a respectable family man of comfortable means, but he throws it all away for the love of Carrie. What was whispered about them will always be whispered when they give all for love. So about a guy, a family man who meets a woman that, makes him decide maybe he's going to, leave his wife or at least have an affair with this, new spirit that he's found. And Jennifer Jones is really an actor that I very much enjoy. And so it's interesting to see Olivier and Jennifer Jones together in this film. And like I said, a William Wyler that I've not seen yet, so definitely excited to check this out. 1080p presentation by Paramount, audio commentary by professor and film scholar Jason A. Nye. Neil Sinyard on Carrie, interview with the author of A Wonderful Heart, the films of William Wyler. That's a brand new. They use Neil Sinyard a lot, a British gentleman who always has interesting and insightful things to say on these features. So that is Carrie from 1952. Interesting alternate artwork. Next up, and finally, we have another love story called Something to Live For. This one also from 1952. And this one directed by the great George Stevens, who I'm almost maybe even a bigger fan of than William Wyler, and I like William Wyler quite a bit. George Stevens, of course, did Shane, Giant, A Place in the Sun. That's a huge one. Swing Time. I really like The More the Merrier, Vivacious Lady with Ginger Rogers and Jimmy Stewart. His last film, Only Game in Town, is pretty fantastic for me. It's sort of a gambling movie with Liz Taylor and Warren Beatty. But yeah, obviously a very great director, and so this is another one that I am very curious to check out because I had not seen it. It stars Joan Fontaine and Ray Milland and Teresa Wright, among others. It is about an aging advertising executive played by Ray Milland. Some people have said that you could see this as something of a follow-up to The Lost Weekend, because he is an alcoholic, a recovered alcoholic, who now does interventions on behalf of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's called by an elevator operator of a residential hotel to come and intervene in the case of one of the guests, struggling Broadway actress Jenny Carey, played by Joan Fontaine. The two find that they have more in common than their taste for drink, but Jenny wants to put an end to their romance because Alan is a married man who, moreover, is the father of 2 children. How will Jenny and Alan resolve their feelings without destroying Alan's marriage? So we have another, very much like Carrie, a family man that meets another woman and is smitten and has to deal with that. So this one, just the idea of 2 alcoholics, again, sort of following up with Milland's Oscar-winning, I think, role in Lost Weekend, and directed by George Stevens. So all these things together makes for, I think, a very interesting combination of, classic film elements that definitely has my attention. And I'm quite sure, well, I shouldn't say that, but I'm pretty sure this one also has not had a Blu-ray. So this is a debut as far as I'm concerned. And I'm excited to get any and all, as with William Wyler, any and all George Stevens on Blu-ray that I can. So this one definitely excited to check out as well. It is a 1080p high-definition presentation from a new 2022 2K scan by Paramount. Audio commentary by film historian Daniel Creamer and David Del Val. Neil Sinyard, again, on Something to Live For. Interview with the author of George Stevens, The Films of a Hollywood Giant. So he also wrote a book on George Stevens. So the man is quite knowledgeable when it comes to both Stevens and Wyler. which is very cool. So that is it for this bundle from Imprint Films. Again, these can be gotten directly from Imprint, or from even Amazon has some of these Imprint films eventually. Sometimes it takes 3 weeks or so, sometimes earlier, before they show up on Amazon. They tend to be a little pricier there, so I would recommend using some kind of intermediary like Orbit DVD or DiabolikDVD or import CDs. That tends to alleviate a little bit of the cost of import. So, but again, all region discs, and if you haven't been keeping up with what Imprint is doing on both a cult movie level and a classic film level, they're doing wonderful work, and I'm a big fan of the stuff they've been putting out. Nice features, the transfers are generally pretty good, so really a solid company to keep track of. I know I've talked about them a lot here, and I'll try to continue to do so. But anyway, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.